the impending solo journey of Prince Harry across the Atlantic next week, arriving without his wife, Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, or their two young children, Prince Archie Harrison and Princess Lilibet Diana, marks a profound and visibly stark fracture in the ongoing royal narrative. What was once optimistically envisioned as a crucial family reunion, a potential bridge across the expanding chasm between the self-exiled Duke and his estranged relatives, has instead demonstrably dissolved into a bitter impasse over crucial personal security provisions, the allocation of state funding, and deeply entrenched royal protocol. This abrupt cancellation of comprehensive family travel plans leaves the Duke to confront both the British public and the royal family in stark isolation, serving as a potent and undeniable illustration of the unyielding friction that continues to define his complex relationship with the very institution he chose to depart. Mainstream television networks across the nation have been consumed by continuous, often intense coverage, featuring panel debates where prominent political journalists and media broadcasters remain profoundly divided over the intricate implications of this significant decision. Commentators on one side express considerable concern regarding the public optics of a family seemingly torn apart by administrative bureaucracy, while others vehemently condemn the situation as a calculated crisis, meticulously manufactured. They argue to exert maximum pressure on the state. At the absolute epicenter of this latest royal upheaval lies the fiercely contested and highly sensitive issue of executive protection, a point of contention that has simmered for years. Since his decision to step back from active royal duties in 2020, the Duke of Sussex has been engaged in a relentless, multi-year legal challenge against the Home Office and the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, commonly known as RAVES. The committee has consistently reaffirmed its unwavering stance that the Duke is no longer automatically entitled to the automatic, taxpayer-funded police protection reserved exclusively for working members of the royal family, a decision rooted in established policy. This definitive ruling has ignited a considerable and often acrimonious debate within both security circles and the broader public consciousness, scrutinizing the parameters of royal privilege. Police commentators and legal experts firmly assert that state protection cannot simply be acquired as a private commodity by wealthy individuals, irrespective of their aristocratic lineage or personal desires for enhanced safety. The British state maintains stringent and unyielding criteria, allocating precious public funds and specialist firearms officers based solely on current official risk assessments directly linked to active constitutional roles, rather than birthright or historical status alone, a principle designed to protect taxpayers. Experts argue with conviction that one cannot simply approach the Home Office or Scotland Yard to demand a police detail merely by offering to cover the associated costs, as state security is fundamentally not a commercial enterprise available to private citizens, regardless of their past connections. For the Duke, who now operates entirely as a private citizen residing thousands of miles away in California, this rigid legal boundary has become an insurmountable and frustrating obstacle, fostering immense frustration and an escalating sense of alienation within his close circle, impacting his ability to visit his homeland. However, the complexities of the situation extend far beyond a routine bureaucratic disagreement or a standard legal dispute over policy, touching upon matters of personal safety. Intelligence reports, reportedly originating from the Duke's own United States security apparatus, have recently presented a deeply concerning and alarming assessment of the genuine dangers confronting the family should they visit the UK. Comprehensive risk evaluations have identified at least 6 major terror plots explicitly targeting the Duke of Sussex, with no fewer than 5 of these operational threats reportedly originating directly within the United Kingdom itself, highlighting a domestic security concern. For a man who served his country with distinction and courageous dedication on the front lines of Afghanistan, and who has openly detailed his military service record, the stark reality of these persistent threats remains an evergreen source of profound personal anxiety and a significant consideration for his family's safety. His highly specialized personal security team, composed predominantly of elite former special forces operators, veteran military personnel, and retired counter-terrorism officers, has consistently maintained that private security alone is fundamentally inadequate when operating on British soil due to critical legal and operational limitations. Private bodyguards in the United Kingdom notably lack the legal authority to carry firearms, nor do they possess direct access to crucial real-time state counter-terrorism intelligence feeds or the essential capacity to orchestrate complex traffic control and crowd management operations, all vital components of effective protection. Without the direct and official backing of Scotland Yard, any public appearance by the Duke, particularly with his family present, becomes an exponentially heightened gamble, representing a severe and unacceptable risk that the Duke is ultimately unwilling to undertake with his wife and young children. The human element of this protracted security deadlock represents perhaps the most poignant and tragic aspect of the unfolding royal drama, impacting familial bonds. King Charles III, the reigning monarch, has not had the opportunity to see his youngest grandchildren in person for over 4 years, a prolonged and deeply felt separation that has caused considerable sadness among diligent observers of the monarchy, and, indeed, within the family itself. The last recorded occasion the family gathered together on British soil was during the solemn yet celebratory late Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee celebrations in 2022, an event marked by immense public pageantry yet undeniably shadowed by underlying familial tension and unresolved issues. The definitive cancellation of next week's planned joint visit effectively extinguishes any immediate hope for a meaningful and personal reconciliation between the monarch and his Sussex grandchildren, Archie, who is now 7 years old, and Lilibet, aged 5, prolonging their separation. While some cynical commentators suggest that the palace might be deliberately using the denial of security as a calculated mechanism to penalise the Duke for his past public transgressions and outspoken critiques of the institution, others point out that the King has himself extended a conciliatory gesture by offering his son secure accommodation at an undisclosed official royal residence during his forthcoming stay in London. This gesture implies that while the sovereign remains personally open to familial contact, the inflexible machinery of the state and the independent decisions made by Ravesey operate entirely autonomously of paternal affection, thereby creating an awkward and publicly challenging paradox where the optics appear undeniably detrimental for all involved parties, particularly the image of the monarchy. To fully grasp the intricate depth of the animosity and historical context surrounding this impending trip, it is necessary to revisit the explosive and highly personal revelations detailed in the Duke's seminal memoir, Spare. The book presented a raw, unfiltered, and often searing account of a man navigating what he perceived as a profoundly challenging and toxic system, where he felt consistently undermined, systematically controlled, and frequently antagonized by the very individuals ostensibly meant to protect and support him, including members of his own family. A central pillar of this enduring friction, as depicted in his writings, is his complex and often strained relationship with his elder brother, the Prince of Wales, a dynamic that has long been scrutinized. In his memoir, the Duke recounted the immense psychological hurdle of introducing the innovative concept of the Invictus Games, an international sporting event specifically designed for wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women, a cause close to his heart. Rather than receiving anticipated fraternal support or encouragement for such a noble endeavour, the Duke reportedly encountered a wall of absolute fury and profound jealousy from the heir to the throne, a reaction he found deeply distressing. The Prince of Wales allegedly perceived this compassionate initiative not as a charitable triumph for veterans, but rather as a direct threat to his own royal standing and public profile, thereby igniting a fierce and damaging rivalry between the brothers that continues to resonate. The funding for the inaugural games, it was revealed, was meticulously drawn from the Endeavour Fund, which represented the Duke's rightful share of the Royal Foundation assets, underscoring that the project was his own historical legacy, meticulously developed independently of a brother who, it is understood, would have willingly stifled the initiative in its infancy had he possessed the foreknowledge and opportunity to do so, fearing its success. The memoir consistently portrays a family dynamic where the Duke felt treated strictly as an expendable insurance policy, a secondary figure whose primary purpose was to support the main branch of the family without ever receiving independent credit or the freedom to genuinely flourish on his own terms, fostering deep resentment. As news of the Duke's solo journey continues to dominate the British airwaves and spark widespread public discussion, public opinion has sharply fractured along deeply partisan lines, reflecting the broader divisions within society regarding the monarchy's role. A substantial segment of the public has reacted with outright indignation and vocal disapproval, accusing the Duke of employing his own young children as emotional leverage in an unyielding and perhaps cynical campaign to strong-arm the British government into acceding to his demands for security. Critics contend with conviction that the narrative of a full family reunion was deliberately circulated to generate immense public pressure on authorities, using the implicit threat of withholding the grandchildren from an aging king as a calculated tactical weapon to gain advantage. From this critical perspective, the entire episode is viewed not as a genuine plea for legitimate security, but as a calculated, petulant outburst by a man who, it is argued, demands all the privileges associated with a working royal position without accepting any of the accompanying duties, responsibilities, or personal sacrifices that come with it. Conversely, a compelling argument for greater equity and consistency, the application of state protection, has emerged from independent cultural observers who highlight significant and apparent inconsistencies in the allocation of such vital resources, challenging the existing framework. The recent public disclosure that international pop icons have been granted high-level, taxpayer-supported police escorts during their concert tours in London has added considerable fuel to this heated debate, drawing parallels that critics find difficult to ignore. If a foreign entertainer, whose primary connection to the state is commercial and whose public safety risk is primarily event-based, can be afforded state protection due to the sheer magnitude of the public safety risk surrounding her persona and large public gatherings, it raises profound and legitimate questions as to why the actual son of the reigning monarch, who carries inherent and lifelong security risks, is systematically denied a similar courtesy. The argument that the inherent threat follows the individual, rather than being strictly confined to an official office or a specific geographical location, gains substantial weight given that the Duke's global profile and historical connections render him a permanent and undeniable magnet for extremist threats and unwanted attention, irrespective of his current royal status. Looking ahead to next week, the Duke's schedule is reportedly filled with a series of high-profile engagements that will undoubtedly test his personal security arrangements to their absolute limit, making the absence of state protection particularly salient. His primary objective during this visit is to lead the official one-year countdown events for the forthcoming 2027 Invictus Games, an event of immense personal significance and a cornerstone of his charitable legacy, which will be held in Birmingham. This return to the West Midlands represents a monumental moment for his charitable legacy, serving as a powerful and visible reminder of his enduring commitment to servicemen and women veterans, a cause he champions passionately. He is also expected to manage various ongoing legal actions against elements of the mainstream tabloid press in London, continuing his protracted battles against media intrusion. For the foreseeable future, the Duke remains an ultimate outsider within his own homeland, a figure perceived by some as a warrior prince, engaged in a solitary battle against a rigid establishment, while his immediate family remains safely ensconced thousands of miles away in California, leaving the British monarchy to contemplate the profound and lasting damage of a complex family dynamic that, by all indications, shows absolutely no signs of healing or resolution.